do you ever like avoid looking at your bank statements or your credit card statements? Do you feel like no matter how much money you earn, it's never enough? Do you maybe earn enough money, but you struggle to spend it because you feel like you have to hoard it? Today, Tara and I are going to talk about money stories and how they can be detrimental to your life and your business. So, welcome to episode 20 of Essential Enthusiasm with me, Jolie, and my friend Tara Swiger. Today, we're going to talk about a book that I read, which is Worthy. Boost your self-worth to grow your net worth.
Yes, I am super excited to hear about this book because money stories is something I'm always needing to work on and think about. And it's so funny because in your intro, you said like 50 things that are me. And I feel like you knew they're me. And that's why you said that.
Well, so the book actually starts like straight in the introduction, like I was highlighting like crazy because she talks about, so she says, you may have an unhealthy relationship with money if any of the following things are true. And it's things like avoiding looking at credit card bills and bank statements, racking up debt and being worried like that you're never going to pay it off, making enough money but never feeling like you can save, like feeling like money comes in but you just never have enough to save, or having money but being not able to spend it because you just feel like you never have enough where you feel like, okay, now it's safe to spend it. And like all of these statements, I was like, yep, I think I can relate to these, or know that Tara can relate to these. The book has, I don't like the title. I don't like cheesy titles, but I understand that like titles sell a book. I think if the book was just called Worthy, it would just be a lot better. But the whole idea of like growing your self-worth to improve your net worth, like it's not about that. The book is not about making money, getting rich. It's not about manifesting. It's not about any of that. It's just about looking at how your feelings about yourself come out into your feelings about money. So her thesis of the book is that our self-worth determines our net worth. That's kind of her overarching thing. And so she talks about how feelings of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable, or even just feelings like I'm overweight, like how those thoughts, which I think nearly all of us have at some point, are representations of our beliefs about ourselves and our belief about how worthy we are. And then that comes out in how we relate to money. So I was thinking about like this a lot. And so imagine like you're getting ready to launch something, like it can be a big launch like a course, or you're getting ready to release a new pattern or do an essential oils class, like whatever it is that you're about to do. And you have really low self-worth. So you go to send those emails and you think, oh, well, I'll just send one because I don't want to annoy people. Or I better not ask for the sale at the end of this class because like I don't want to bother people. That's self-worth, right? That's low self-worth. And that's directly then affecting how much you earn. Because if you don't send all 5 emails at the launch, or you don't ask for the sale, or you don't tell anyone on Instagram that you just put yarn in your shop, you're not going to earn money. So I really liked that premise.
Oh my gosh, that is like, yes, everything. Because that's, as you and I work with small business owners, we see over and over that people are, well, I didn't want to, this one situation, I gave her the idea of asking for referrals, like for her happy clients to suggest her to their other knitwear designer friends. And she's like, that's a genius idea. I have so many happy clients. I'm so good to do it. Like, I'm so excited to do it. And then week after week, she hasn't been able to do it. And I have total compassion for that because I know that feeling of like, I don't want to bug these people. But the fact of the matter is, if she was tapped into how happy her clients are and how much they value it, then she would see that it's not an unreasonable request. Like, they already value it. So sometimes I tell people, like, you need to tap into the other person's value of your product. Mm-hmm. But of course, when you're starting a brand new thing, nobody values it yet. And if you don't value yourself, how can you value the thing that you're making?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the book goes through 10 steps to kind of go through where you have to figure out like what your stories are, like what your beliefs are, um, kind of then figuring out like what's that costing you, like what's that stopping you from doing, and then okay, so I always have an issue with self-help books, and I don't know if this is like me or universal. I feel like they start out strong and like I'm super excited at the beginning and like I'm doing all the exercises and then they just kind of tail off at the end. So I did kind of like at the beginning, like I was really doing all the exercises because each chapter had like things to write and go through and blah blah blah. But then towards the end, I kind of got bored. Maybe it was just too much. Like I need to revisit it.
Yeah, I wonder if like it's the book, and I'll have to read the book and tell you if I think it tapers off too. But like, if the book tapers off, or like you've like, because this is what happens with me is I do the exercises in the first couple chapters, and then like life happens, and then I'm reading it at a time where I can't do the exercise, and then I'm just not as interested. Like if, and sometimes I'll get something out so much out of the first half, I'm like the second half doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's definitely what it was. Like part of that is for me is like what I did read and like went through the exercises, it helped me so much. Like, first of all, I'll talk one of the beliefs that I realized through this book that I had was the story that my money, my income pays for the fun stuff in our family unit, and my husband's money pays for the bills. And we had been saying this for so long, and I didn't even realize it was a story till like I was going through the book and like it really just clicked like how much I'm devaluing my money, my job, my income, because I don't feel like it counts, right? Like I have a story that if I don't work hard enough, then I've not earned the money. And so I just don't place like value on the money that I earn. But this whole idea of working hard enough is ridiculous because I will never work hard enough in my own head.
Right, especially if it's like work hard to earn the money, but the money you earn is not important. So
Yeah.
you're like working hard, but then constantly like backtracking on how important that work was.
Yeah. So,
And they're both stories that don't work though, right? Because the work hard in order to earn money like makes it feel like that anything you enjoy, I mean, this is what a lot of women experience is anything they enjoy in their business isn't hard work
right.
because it doesn't feel hard. It's like easy or fun or flowy and like so it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm. So she does a good job, like at the beginning, of kind of listing out like a lot of things that I didn't realize I was doing. For example, not ever looking at my bank statements. I don't, I just always, I don't know, like I control all the finances in our family. So it's not like I've handed over the reins because she talks about that. This book is clearly aimed at women, and she's very much aiming it at women who live with a partner who controls all the finances in their relationship.
Mm.
It a lot of it didn't come across as being aimed at women who are like single or in a same-sex relationship or very much like bosses, right? It did
Right.
come across as being aimed at women who are in a typical heterosexual marriage. She talks about the husband a lot and the husband controlling all the finances. So like I think there was a little bit of disconnect. But that said, like I'm not in that situation at all. I am still doing a lot of the things of just not handing over the purse strings to my husband, but almost like handing them off to the universe, like just not dealing with them. So like I look at our bank balance, but I not never, but I really hate like balancing the bank, like going through the statements and making sure like there's no false charges or like just seeing where our money goes. Like I prefer to not know where the money's going. I just like to ignore it.
Oh my God, you just like my anxiety went through the roof. I was like, let me come control your life like I control mine. No, so mine, so I never look at my paper statements, but I look at my accounts like every day and then look at the uh activity maybe every 2 or 3 days. I mean, and if I am not in a high anxiety place, then it's less often. It's every 2 or 3 days I check the accounts. Maybe once a week I look at what's going through, in part to look for like mistakes and problems because twice we've had our card used in a town we weren't in. Like they stole it when we ran it at at a grocery store and then they went to like Burger King. So it wasn't a big deal. But like that's happened. So I'm always looking at that. And because I travel so much, like I want to make sure there aren't weird charges
Mhm.
happening with that. And then also just to see like well I for a long time we did you need a budget.
Yep.
Did you do you need a
Yes,
budget?
I still use that. Yes.
Okay. So I would update that with because see my little local bank doesn't automatically send my transactions to you need a budget, so I would go in and add them like once a week.
Hmm.
And I actually found that super helpful because it would like you never have the thing of like how have we spent so much. Jay's thing is that he will spend a random $2 at a gas station a million times, like to get peanuts or to get a pop, which I don't even believe in pop, so that's a whole thing. But like, or for those of you who weren't raised in the Midwest, like soda or
Yep.
Coke or whatever, right? And that like, so it would go in like the random part of the budget and it'd be like, how do we spend so much in that area? Oh, well, I know it's because there are like 20 visits of $2,
Hmm.
or Target. We always spend like $100 more than we plan to spend at Target. So like, I just seeing it makes me know there's no unknown. Where did that money go? Like some vortex that it fell into.
Hmm.
Does that make
So,
any sense to you?
yeah, no, totally. So I also use You Need a Budget, and we can link to it in the show notes. It's really helpful. You pay the small fee. And my bank, nothing hooks up automatically. Like I have to go in and enter all my transactions. But there's a feature where you can put in your bank balance, and then you can click reconcile. And if it's different, it just like creates an amount. Like it just adds like a reconcile transaction and it adds your income
Yeah.
or to adjust it. So I would just do that at the end of the month. Just put in the amount that's in our bank account and like reconcile, be like, okay, here's how much you spent this month. And like I do now when I'm good, when I'm on top of my finances, I go in once a week and that's what I'm trying to do. And put in all the things and make sure we're on track for our budget. But it stresses me out massively.
Oh no. Like that's the thing is that I found it that you need a budget. So that wait, that's my question is so are you guys putting in your transactions on the go? Like how is the you need a budget lining up with where you are at the end of the month? Because the whole point is that like you put money in specific categories and then you enter your transaction and you put it in that category. So then you can see like, oh, we have $50 more that we could spend on in restaurants or
I
you know.
okay, I know. Like this is where I struggle with money so much because so in our categories, I guess we don't budget for like well, we don't go out to eat and we don't like I don't know. We don't like have a lot of miscellaneous expenses unless it's stuff that I'm buying. But I when I buy stuff, so this was another money story that was like a really big problem. When I buy stuff, I buy it from like my PayPal account, even if it's stuff for the house. So even if it's kids clothes for the kids or coffee, I buy it from my PayPal. So it's not coming from our bank balance. And in my head, like I was also it's frivolous if I buy coffee or clothes for the kids or like I'm being irresponsible with my money when I buy it. I still do it, but I feel really irresponsible. But if my husband bought that same stuff, it would be justified in my head, which is like a massive problem.
Yeah.
So we were but just basically I was putting in categories to keep track. So like would have an idea of how much we'd spend on groceries and how much we'd spend on like miscellaneous stuff. And I would keep track of our bank balance. And when our bank balance got low, and I know based on you need a budget, like we still have these bills coming out, I would just top it up from my business account. And like that's
Yeah.
how I've been maintaining our finances, which meant that my husband always felt like our bank, like, oh no, we're running out of money. And I'm like, oh, everything's fine because I have my business account and I'm just topping it up. But then I
Right.
also felt like responsible for keeping us afloat. And it was
Right.
just not a great situation. But it came out of all of these money stories that I have about money's not safe. So that's another one of mine. I feel like so let's say I move over X amount of dollars every month total, but I was doing it in drips.
Right.
I feel like if I moved it all over at the beginning of the month, that it would disappear. Like we would spend it too quickly and it's not safe to move over all that money at once. Like I have to hoard it because I'm keeping it safe.
I have this exact same issue with my business account versus our account. So like the and I can't even like you put it such a good way, but like if it was in my business account, it would be safe because my business account only has several, like a few withdrawals from it
Mm-hmm.
automatically. But if I put it in our account, like, oh, well, what is going to keep us from just like spending it on something at Target when it should be spent for the bills?
Yeah.
So like the you need a budget helped me way back in the day because my income was so much more variable. So I should just want to tell people that like you need a budget is really great for variable income because you basically budget the money only after you've made it. So like most budgeting apps are like at the beginning of the month, what do you want to spend in each area? Well, if you literally don't know what you're going to make in 2 weeks, like that was super stressful for me, way of thinking of money. So like instead it's like money comes in, you give it a job. And then money comes in and you give it a job, meaning you pre-decide where it's going to go. And I found that super helpful. But I still have the thing where like the money in my business account feels safe and everything else feels like it just like flows away with like, and I can't hold on to it. And
Mm-hmm.
like it'll get badly spent. And like part of my brain is like, and I'm afraid this podcast is going to make Jay sound horrible, but like part of my brain is like, I literally share finances with another person who I can't control because we can't control other humans. So like truly, in fact, he could spend it all.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like that's
Yeah.
just a story I have is like because I know what I do, but you don't know what your partner's going to do. So, and even after 14 years of marriage, I'm still like, if it's there, it could just all be gone tomorrow, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's irrational and like I can tell it's irrational, but it's still very much real. Like the fear is still really hard for me to get over. So what we tried to do is at the beginning of this month is like actually figure out like what I should pay myself. And so I put in an amount at the beginning of the month and I said, okay, this is like my paycheck. And so his paycheck goes in. So in the UK, we only get paid monthly. So that's a little bit different for people in the US. But so his paycheck goes in the first of the month. Mine went in the first of the month. And I was like, I had to talk with him. And I was like, listen, if I'm going to do this, this is it. Like, I'm not topping this up. Like, we both need to be responsible. Because that's the other thing. He's handed over the purse strings to me in our relationship. And he was not like aware or having to even be bothered about how much was going out of the account. And so I was like, you need to be on top of this as well. And I need to trust you. Like, this is it. Like, this, if it gets low, stop buying stuff because like I can't top it up because, like I've planned it out.
Right.
I've divided. I also make money once like every 2 to 3 months in large amounts. So I have to take
Right.
that money and divide it up and I have to plan for like my taxes. So like all of that feels it's just stressful. It's like, my natural instinct is to just avoid it all and just like, just trust
Yeah.
trust it will be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Which is like that kind of brings us back to what we were when you first said that, and it like spiked my anxieties because like my natural inclination is the more worried I am, the more often I check and the more I do math. Like one of the things I realized years ago is what helps me is actually getting out of what you know what's in your head is like, oh well, the electric bill is going to be due in 2 days, and like, oh, I'm going to go on that trip, I need to buy those plane tickets, or I need to plan to spend this much food when I'm in Columbus, and I need to make sure that I have, oh my gosh, the parking garage was $25 a day, which like was not expected. That's just a lot. And so like I will have that all in my head, and I realize that if I like just write it down, like, hey, what's coming up over the next week, it will keep me from like looking at the account, doing the math in my head, then going off, and then looking at the account and doing the math in my head because I forget that I've already done it. And that's like a compulsive behavior that only increases my anxiety.
Yeah.
It's not mentally healthy. I do not recommend. But that is that like, so avoiding it altogether is just like makes me feel all like hot
Yeah.
and happy. Does she talk in the book about how to work through your money stories?
She has a bunch of exercises. A lot of it is like going through childhood stuff because a lot of our money stories come from childhood. Like things you might have heard your parents say, like if your parents didn't talk about money, or they fought about money, or like there was tension in your house when bills were due. Like as a kid, you kind of pick up on all that stuff. So she has you write down all your old beliefs. So for example, one of mine is I don't deserve the money I earn because I haven't worked hard enough for it. And she has you then figure out like a counter example. So basically, is that true? And the thing is, so I wrote down, well, I work smart and I work efficiently. And if I'm hitting my sales goals, then I'm working hard enough. So, right. And then, so the new belief is that I deserve to get paid for the work that I do. So that's kind of like traditional mindset stuff that I think a lot of other books covered, but it was nice to go through for my money stories.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a good exercise about figuring out what you want, and then talking about writing down why don't you have it. And then so for example, like what I want is like the house of my dreams. So why don't I have it is, well, we don't have the money to buy the house of my dreams. Simple. So then you write down like, I can't have the house of my dreams because I don't have enough money. But then you change the word can't to resistant, and you add in like I believe. So it's I'm resistant to buying the house of my dreams because I believe I don't have enough money. But then as I was writing that, I realized it wasn't true. And it's because, so I changed it to I'm resistant to buying the house of my dreams because I believe that even if I do have enough money, it's only temporary and I'll end up in debt or homeless because I'll like have just made a massive mistake. So it was actually kind of nice to like work through all the steps of these beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me want to get the book for sure. Like,
Yeah.
because that process is super, like, I feel like that takes it a step beyond just like, because like 50 times I've identified my money stories. And then they're like, these don't have to be true. I'm like, okay, but like, I don't know if I've just stopped doing the work of books, but like that, I like that exercise.
Yeah. And then she has you think about like, okay, so what if a friend said that to you? What would you tell your friend? And so it's like, well, okay, if I buy a house and I lose my job, I could get another one. Like I'm historically good at earning money. I've never in my life, like since I started working at like 12, not made money, not found a job, right? So it's like,
Right.
it will be fine. I could always sell the house. Like that's not
Right.
the end of the world if we bought the house and had to sell it. If I bought the house and realized I'm still not happy or it wasn't what I wanted, like I could sell it. So like kind of doing a little bit of what Tim Ferriss calls fear setting, like writing down the fears and being like, well, what's the worst case scenario? Is it really the end of the world? And then writing down ideas to kind of move forward. So for us, I like researched locations I would want to live, and like I actually looked up houses, like not dream houses that are like 5 million pounds, but like actual realistic dream houses that I would like to live in, and like how much do they cost? Okay, like so what do I actually have to earn in order to get that mortgage and to have that deposit? Like just kind of sometimes things seem really scary because we haven't actually looked at how to accomplish them. And so kind of just doing that really helped me. But kind of also just breaking down the whole story. Like why I don't have this, like why don't I have it? Okay, it's actually that I'm resistant to having this thing because of this story. And so like that was nice. It was a good process. And that was kind of like where I stopped the book because I think I just had so much come up that I was just like, oh, okay, too much.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like maybe take a break and then go back to it. The other thing is that like we've talked about a lot of money stories, like a lot of your money stories and ones, and like sometimes I think I just need to work on one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that I think it was a couple years ago that like the whole issue of like I have to work harder else it doesn't count. Like I worked through that one and I don't really feel like that anymore. But I still have hangups about like the amount I should be working, like not the hardness, right? But like the amount. And if it doesn't hit a certain amount, everything is going to fall apart. And like, so I feel like the more you work through like one at a time, then you kind of see the next layer of it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it got overwhelming because there ware like 5
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah. But I think definitely for me, just right now, like we're focusing on shifting the family money story because let's just mention real quick, like our money stories don't just affect us, like they affect the other people. If we have like relationships or people in our life, they affect the other people, because we had this story of my money pays for fun stuff and my husband's money pays for the bills. So that made me feel like my work was insignificant, doesn't count, is just for fun, is a silly little hobby that I have. But it made my husband feel like he's responsible for keeping the family afloat. And
Right.
the truth is, the facts are we both earn the same amount. And a lot of months I earn more than him. So the fact that his money is going towards the bills and my money is going towards fun stuff is like just a mental story that we were telling ourselves that was creating a lot of resentment between us, because like I would buy something fun like concert tickets, and my husband would then be like, well, I can't do that because I have to pay the bills. And it's just such a silly, like, not true at all thing that was, yeah.
Right. Right. And it puts a pressure on him that doesn't even exist.
Right.
Like, because if you guys earn the same amount of money, then he's not keeping the family. Like you could, I mean, what I mean is he doesn't have to keep the family afloat.
Right.
If just his income can do it, then just your income can do it.
Exactly.
So he could like go on safari. I mean, I don't think we want him to, but like that's just like that acknowledgement of like, wait, things will be okay if I'm not stressed about this is probably really great for him, his like psychological stress levels.
Right. I did want to say, like, real quick about the book. So I did like it. I would definitely recommend it. I found working through the exercises, identifying my money stories, realizing some things that I just kind of didn't realize were a problem, like how much I was avoiding a lot of stuff with our finances, to be great. My criticisms are that I do feel like I'm probably not, well, not that the target audience, but just that it felt a lot like she was talking to women who are like not earning anything in their marriage. And she's talking a lot to people whose money story is that they hold on to money and don't spend it. And so like a lot of the advice was geared towards that, whereas I personally lean towards more of not holding on to any of my money and spending it, because I feel like, well, the money's not safe anyways, so if I have it, I might as well spend it. So, which I know doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I was going to say, a lot of people have that thing because that is Jay's, like, we figured out that one of his, we have like completely different ways we react to the same situation, and it's kind of cyclical. Like we spark each other's issues. And so his is if we've like kept things strict, let's say, for a while, or money's been tight for a while, like just paying our bills and getting groceries and not doing anything extra, then when we have anything extra, he's like, well, we need to spend it now because who knows when we'll have more later. Mm-hmm. So like we need to like go to Target and buy the random stuff that's been on our list forever. I need to like replace my shoes that are wearing out. I also need to get a pair of jeans because like all of the things that are truly like, they're not spendy, ridiculous things. It's not like, let's go out and buy a bunch of champagne or something, or like something crazy. It's more, it's like things that he needs, that he's like, I'm going to do it all in one day. And what that does to me, because I'm oh my God, you can't spend money because then it'll all go away and you won't ever get any more. So when he does spend it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I've really had to work on like, Tara, their sneakers. His sneakers had holes. Like they're jeans that like he wears every day. Like and this is like an ongoing money story too, is that money is no more valuable than the thing you exchange money for. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? But like for a lot of people, the safety of having the cash in the bank or the cash on them is more valuable, or it feels safer than having the shoes. Yeah. But Jay is a person where the thing that you buy with money is much more valuable than just having money.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, that I would sympathize with that, because the thing that you have is permanent. But like I have this thing.
But it's not permanent at all. Like you're gonna get more holes in your shoes. Your jeans are gonna fall apart. Your house is gonna decay.
Okay, I've never gotten holes in my shoes, but my husband has.
Right. Like what is that about? I don't get holes in my shoes either. But like I'll be doing a teaching thing and he'll be like, those shoes are like sad. Like I have these cute slip-ons, but I wore them it got really muddy, like a sudden rain, and so they're like mud splattered and they're cloth, so you can't really clean them. He's like, you need to get new shoes. Like, you need to look professional when you do this.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be expensive, but like you do, like, and you do need to own teaching clothes, not just pajamas. Like, that is always him, because for him it's more valuable the experience or the thing than the money. But for my safety issues, the thing, I have to remind myself of its value.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like things like food, and actually for me way more, because one of my love languages, which we're always talking about love language, my love language is quality time. So like if we like when we go see a play or a musical, or we go and have a dinner that we both really enjoy and we like have a great conversation, that like I have no stress about spending money on that because it's quality time. But like things, I just was raised to not value things, and almost that there's godliness and like not caring at all about possessions.
Yeah.
So almost there's something, and again, this is just a belief, like this isn't right and true, but like this might trigger some things in some people when I say it, but it's almost sinful to care about physical possessions
Yep.
or to acquire them. And that's ridiculous when it leads you to not replacing shoes with
Yep.
holes in them. Or like we were talking one time about, I think it was like my mic stand or my iPhone stand, like something I needed for my business. And I was like, that is not more valuable than the money I have. And you were like, no, it definitely is. You need to buy it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And
definitely.
so that's the thing. Like, no money story is really a good money story at the end of it. Like, none's better or worse than the other, because you could think that, oh, well, saving money, that's great. But there are times, and she talks about this a lot in the book, where saving money, holding on to money, can lead you to being in a worse position financially. So for example, she was hoarding all her money in just like an account and wasn't really looking at savings options, or she like didn't want to deal with like retirement plans, and so like missed out on her work, who would have topped, like matched what her contribution was, which would have been a lot of free money. So there are times, in even just with buying stuff. So my husband wears holes in his shoes very easily, but he would buy, let's say, 20 pound, 30 pound pair of shoes every 3 months. So he's spending like 90 pound, like, or like 120 pound a year. And I'm like,
Right.
just buy the 70 pound pair of shoes that last a year. And like,
Yeah.
you save money, but because
Right.
some people buy cheap and more often because that feels better, and it can actually cause you to like spend way more money in the long term.
Yes, this is our shoe situation for sure. It was like, I think 2 years ago that and because of his back, like, and that's the other thing, is like when it comes to like taking care of him, and Jay, like, I love and value more than myself. So I will, and this goes back to the whole self-worth thing though, right?
Yeah.
It's like I would buy him any pair of shoes to help his back and his comfort and him be okay. But like I buy myself the cheap flats with no back support, and then I literally stand on my feet when I teach for like 12 hours. And he was like, "Do you see that that's like wrong?"
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to talk about moral wrongness, like that's morally wrong that you would do that to yourself. You wouldn't treat yourself the way you would treat me and buy me any amount of cushiony shoe that I needed.
Right.
So yeah,
Those are all stories. That's perfect. Like,
yeah.
perfect example of all stories around self-worth, whether you deserve a good pair of shoes, whether you deserve nice clothes, and like, how does that make you feel to then say, I deserve a nice dress? Like, that can bring up a lot of feelings, right? Are wrong. And then that affects your money situation. And so I really liked the book at the end of the day and would definitely recommend it.
And I mean, I want to recommend this book for people because so many of the women I work with have the situation where they're starting a business, their partners are supporting their family, and then they don't spend money or even time or energy on their business because of their self-value.
Mm-hmm.
So like, to work through those stories seems like the funny side effect of all of this is that when you're working on these stories, you make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you start to value yourself and your work more, you make so much more money than when you're like, oh, I don't know if anybody will want to buy this.
Yeah, so that's this week. So the book is Worthy by Nancy Levin. We have, as a reminder, 2 weeks to the end of the month when we're going to be talking about Mastering Your Inner Mean Girl. That's our book club for this month. So if you want to read that and let us know your thoughts in the Facebook group, it's Take Care of Yourself with Tara Swiger on Facebook. We can add in your thoughts to the episode in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Read it, tell us what you think, and we'll be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. Thanks so much for talking with me this week.
Thank you for talking with me.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.